studio now so that we can have this better conversation. Mr. Vice President, your place plenty day.
Thanks a lot, Madam PS. Good evening, HHS. Good evening, woman of God. I'm delighted to be with you, the firebrand of the Ambazonian people, the Ambazonian Governing Council this evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. And forgive us for pulling you out of your meeting to come to the studio to talk to your people. But it's important that once we are here, we bring in the voices that our people would like to hear from. Before I move to the state of the Ambazonian Revolution, as of now, I would like, first of all, we've been talking a lot about countries recognizing Palestine and those that are leaning towards recognition. And you and I know that the Irish government last year openly came out and talked about recognizing that they have recognized Palestine. Mr. Vice President, you sit at the very heart of the door, and I want you to tell us what steps have you been taking to see that island that also fought so much when it came to the Biafran war in terms of support, humanitarian and other stuff, can also lean towards Ambazonia as it's been leaning towards Palestine and even Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Madam PS. My salutations to the panelists one more, but I wish to send 21 gun salutes to our people on ground 0, on ground 1, on ground 2, and other parts of the diaspora. It is thanks to your sacrifices, your dedication, and your unwavering stance against Cameroon occupation in Ambazonia that we are still able to talk about the Ambazonian liberation. We are still able to hold Cameroon to account on a war that they declared on us. And coming to your question, Madam PS, I think it's pertinent. I take you down memory lane 6-7 years ago when we engaged with the Basque country. The Basque being a small autonomous region within Spain, and many people, including Ambazonians and external stakeholders, thought that why would we start our diplomacy with a small country? That is how the recognition of Palestine by Ireland, Spain, and Norway, countries that don't wield as much power as the big countries in international sphere, has paved the way for the likes of France, for the likes of the UK recently, and Canada to hint that they will recognize Palestine. So therefore, our endeavors to start with the Basque are the catalyst for what we are observing with regards to the discussions about Ambazonia in the international scene nowadays. So diplomacy always starts from the low-hanging fruits and then it moves up the ranks. Ireland is credited for standing up against the United Kingdom's oppression and starting many liberation wars in their 800 years of colonization by the UK and failing. So in a nutshell, the Irish fought the British for 800 years before they succeeded. Many times they failed. So they understand the trauma of a considered subhuman person by a colonizer. They understand the difficulties that a subjugated people are on when it comes to the crisis of Ambazonia. And I can assure you that the Irish are working hard, just like any other country, are working in the international scene to make sure that justice is served to the Ambazonian people and that Cameroon is kicked out. But lest I forget, the international scene is made up of different levels of players. Sometimes a player might not be very instrumental, but it can provide opportunities or it can provide the first step in the recognition or in the liberation of a territory, just as we saw with the case in Palestine over a year ago. I hear.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, for that very important response. And we hope that, like you said, step by step, we will get there. When we get to that bridge, actually, we are already on that bridge, so we are sure to cross that bridge. So still in Europe, I would like to bring this to you before I come. Let's talk about that meeting later on. But still in Europe, sir, Norway has recognized Palestine as well. And has constantly taken position rooted in human rights promotion and protection. So how can Norway extend this same standard to Amazonia, where similar or even worse human rights violations are taking place? And also, the same Norway that is recognizing Palestine for standing up as a independent state and protecting human rights is the same Norway that holds the forerunner of the Amazonian revolution captive. How do we explain this in the international diplomacy, however you want to put it?
International diplomacy is not based on morals. International diplomacy is not based on law. Even though international law might be maybe high flown as the pinnacle upon which international diplomacy is predicated. No. International diplomacy is predicated on interest and power. And Norway was coerced by France. And remember, France and Germany wield considerable power in the European Union. And Norway was also coerced through the Biden administration. Remember, the Biden appointee as the ambassador to Cameroon is still in position, and it's through him that France and Norway were able to get the leader in under frivolous charges. But as it stands, Norway has realized their mistake, and Norway is trying to make amends. And when will Norway recognize Amazonia? I can assure you, before France, before the UK, before Canada make a decision that they will recognize Palestine, they don't just wake up one day and recognize Palestine. They have recognized Palestine in the back doors or covertly for quite a long time. This is just the overt expression of their covert recognition of Palestine. So I can tell the Amazonian people that a good number of countries have covertly told us that they understand, they see with Amazonia, but this is not the right time. And in that words and in diplomatic language, that is tacit recognition of the Amazonian cause. Amazonia was also recognized by Cameroon and Canada itself and the United Nations during the Canadian talks, even though those agreements are still hidden or they are under non-disclosure agreements. So the recognition of Amazonia is not necessarily going to come in the open when certain conditions, as the HHS rightly said, when we have not reached a certain threshold of contenderhood, but that is coming near you very soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I wanted to bring in another question on Norway because I really wanted to know if it even has the moral standing to recognize Palestine, considering that it's recognizing a people that are fighting for their own self-determination and at the same time holding another person who is fighting for his own self-determination. But as you rightly said, diplomacy is a game of chess, and there is a lot of backdoor conversations and stuff that we don't want to talk about here. I will leave that for another day, and I will come to ask you this last question on Europe before I pull you to your meeting. Mr. Vice President, like you said, Norway, Spain, Ireland, Britain, France, these are all countries that are leaning or have recognized Palestine. So could this growing European momentum for justice inspire broader recognition for other oppressed people like those of Ambazonia, like us, the Ambazonians.
Exactly. In diplomacy, it's a game of interest. And I think the stars are perfectly aligned towards Ambazonia. And all of these countries that you've named, including those that are not yet named, will recognize Ambazonia. Some of them have recognized Ambazonia already, because if you look at the 4 indices of the war: self-defense, diplomacy, community mobilization, and now the legal pathway, you will realize that the Ambazonian Governing Council and the Ambazonian people have achieved contenderhood status. How we raise that up to a bar that makes up indefeatable is what will make all of these countries to come on board. However, when we say come on board, we mean overtly make their pronouncement. But siding with an unrecognizable state in the open is not the norm in international diplomacy. And as such, they will recognize us as they have done. And I can assure you that France has acknowledged the problem within Ambazonia. They have acknowledged the war declared on Ambazonia. Even though some blockheads like Atanganji say there is no Ambazonian problem, their paymaster and their co-governor, because remember, Cameroon is now governed by the French ambassador in Yaoundé, because Paul Biya has dementia, or Paul Biya is undergoing treatment for Alzheimer's in France. He's no more visible. As such, the ambassador has taken over power and runs the country, because that country was established under the foundation of violence, under the foundation of corruption, under the foundation of moral decadence by France itself. And you find out that the Ambazonian people have stood up to such a frivolous foundation, and we have been able to show our prowess on the battlefield, in diplomacy, in community mobilization. And as regards the state of the revolution, why I'm optimistic that it's only a matter of time before these people recognize us is because I look at the path we have traveled. Take diplomacy, for instance. We started with no partners in 2017 when the war was declared. By 2018, we had a few partners that did not wield considerable power in the international scene. And by 2025, Ambazonia is being discussed at the center of Europe, in the European Union, in the United States, in Canada, and as far as Southeast Asia. That is how far we have gone. And what has brought us to this stage of diplomacy? It is self-defense. I call on all Ambazonians to fund the ground. I call on those in ground zero, those in ground one, to contribute your liberation tax so that you can arm the boys and girls fighting for your freedom. We are at this level because we never gave up. If we had given up, this would be an issue of the past. We are at this level because of our valiant soldiers, because of the determination of our civilians for civil disobedience, because of the sacrifices of our leader, because of the astuteness of the contributors, some within the Ambazonian Governing Council, some outside of the Ambazonian Governing Council. And I want to use this opportunity to thank those who continuously contribute outside of the organization, who don't even want to be recognized with the organization because they think it's a risky path to align with the AGovC. We, the AGovCists, we uphold the argument of force, but we are so much open to the force of argument if Cameroon is ready, because we know Cameroon play lots of games. I wish to also thank those that have never relented their effort, despite the attempts by Cameroon to decapitate the leadership on ground zero, and in the diaspora in the name of Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, who is doing pretty well. I can also assure you that Norway and other European countries are running to the CIC on a daily basis to have discussions with him. We have pushed any issues concerning negotiations to be done with him so that we can have time, space, and the resources to deal with diplomacy and other aspects of the triad approach. I also welcome the unity. I also welcome the total appearance of division and infighting on ground zero. That itself has provided a bedrock for ground zero to teach the diaspora to come together. And I welcome recent meetings by the different factions of the IG and other groups that are trying to find common ground. Once they find common ground, they can come, or the AGovC would approach them for meaningful negotiation as a single block. Because we all know division in this war of liberation was initiated by Skakov, which transformed itself into the IG and then splintered left and right. So in terms of community mobilization, I think we are moving in the right path. Why are we moving in the right path? It's because we have been able, especially the AGovC, one, to put in Salai, the frivolous law firm that was acting on behalf of Cameroon. We have put him on the back foot. He will never, ever threaten any Ambazonian in the United States or outside of the United States. We have been able to use our lobby firm to put him under the radar. His activities have been stopped, curtailed, and he will never pursue any other person, any other Ambazonian in the United States or out of the United States. And that is an achievement that has been done through our lobby firm. We have also secured unfettered access to the center of power in Washington, D.C. I don't want to talk too much on what we are doing, but my leadership is based on results and not on the process. The process doesn't really matter. And I wish to thank all the diplomats. I wish to thank all the heads of missions. I wish to thank all the project leads who have been engaged in diplomacy, but those who have been engaged in self-defense, in humanitarian services, in collaboration, because these are all the different elements, that all the different jigsaw puzzles that bring the whole together. And I can assure you that the vanguard of the Ambazonian War of Independence, the Ambazonian Governing Council, and the Ambazonian Defense Forces are indestructible. Cameroon cannot destroy us. We have put Cameroon on the back foot. Cameroon is economically done. Only in the last 2 weeks, we're able to bring down their two most expensive armor cars, which were supplied to them by the Biden administration for jamming IED radars. But we managed to bring that down. And there is panic within the ranks of the military. The military is defeated. We have won. We just need to keep the momentum, hold the line, and make sure that we kick out the last vestiges of Cameroon. We have won, and won bigly. The army is demoralized. The army does not have the equipment to fight because they can't buy. There are no finances to pay its workers. And as such, the government has now resorted to recruiting vigilantes in order to defend what the army, what the B, what the police, what the gendarmes were supposed to defend, because we have humbled them in the battlefield. And I have a word for all the vigilantes. You are enemy combatants. As enemy combatants, we will go after you with the same determination as we go after our occupier Cameroon. And make no mistake, we will look for you during and even after the liberation war, no matter where you hide, and we will bring you justice. You are the face of what we call treasonous acts. You are the face of a people that have sold out their own, and we will hold you accountable under the laws of the land. As regards all of those politicians, all of those elites who are still eating crumbs in Cameroon, I know John Gute is campaigning for elections on the pretext that he wants to keep his job. He is not campaigning for elections even because he likes the CPDM. He has had an agreement that if he gets elections going in Ambazonia, he will keep his job. I have some words for you. Ambazonia is different from Cameroon. There will be no elections. Anybody distributing, anybody supporting, anybody campaigning, anybody holding material for elections in Cameroon will be treated according to the law. There has been no foreign elections in Ambazonia since Cameroon Paul Biya declared war, and there will be no elections. We will march forward. Our forces are preparing. We are also preparing for negotiations. It's a two-pronged approach. We will march forward and we will liberate our country totally from the last vestiges of Paul Biya. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. I'll allow you to take a sip of water there while I'll call on the studio to bring me a video that I would like you to comment on. And thank you. I wanted to talk about the state of the revolution, but you've, in other words, just coined everything and brought it up. And I'm sure Ambazonians are happy to hear from you since they last heard from you during the Hold the Line campaign. So thank you very much on that, sir. And just after this video, I'll ask you another question, then you can kindly, you're free to leave us. Studio, please.
So that is how positions hardened because of the way people were killed, the way people were arrested. That is how positions hardened to now we have a separatist move. But the government still had an opportunity to find a solution. It was still easy for them to at least try to address the problem. But at no point in time have they attempted in finding a solution to the crisis. When they released us on the 31st of August, it was a golden opportunity to release all those who were detained. But they choose to release three of myself, Justice Aya, who used to be a sitting Supreme Court justice, was arrested and detained for 7 months without any trial. But they released some of us and left the others in jail. So all this hardened position in such a way that if you talk to the average person in Anglophone Cameroon, separation is now en vogue. You know, now the majority of the people would not settle for anything less than separation. The majority of the people now are asking for a referendum for them to determine their fate. But we still believe that something can still be done. Notwithstanding the situation, we can at least have a dialogue. We can at least have a negotiated settlement. You know, the diaspora living in Canada also would have a role to play, you know, because they are very influential. They have the money, they have a voice, that we can involve them also in trying to see how we can find a holistic solution. So the problem cannot just be solved internally without including the diaspora. I'll give you an example. Cameroon has a way of blacklisting Cameroonians by birth who are out of the country. Yes, some of them might have a dual nationality, but we have Cameroonians who have arrived at the airport with a visa and they were sent back because they encourage descent abroad. We cannot solve the problems in Cameroon without addressing the issue of the diaspora. We need to find a way that we would grant amnesty or clemency to those who are living abroad, who have not been convicted, but who are in a blacklist by the government, meaning that...
Okay. Thank you very much for taking it thank you, Vice President. That guy's voice sometimes irritates me, so I get confused when I listen to him sometimes. So, Mr. Vice President, in all the gibberish he said, I picked out one thing. Majority of Ambazonians will want to completely separate themselves from Cameroon. In other words, majority of Ambazonians want nothing with Cameroon but the independence of Ambazonia. Mr. Vice President, at this point of our revolution, do you think this holds true, and is this the absolute position of the Ambazonian people?
Thank you, Madam PS. This position by the Ambazonian people had been confirmed in the Oxford research that was published some years back. This unanimous position of the Ambazonian people was confirmed by a research done by late Cardinal Tumi. It's not something new. It's something new to an enabler who has just woken up from sleep after selling out the revolution when he was the consortium president. Why most Ambazonians would not openly ask for separation or complete independence, an overwhelming majority, not only now, since from the beginning, once we educated them enough on their history, on being the first democracy in the whole of Africa, and how Cameroon state is built on violence, subjugation, and corruption, most of our people had made up their mind. And when you talk to people on the ground, Cameroon knows. That is why Cameroon has not done any investment opportunities. They even lied to the houseboy Dion Gute that they were not going to move the Sonara refinery to Kribi. But little did he know that that was going to go. Cameroon has started coming to the reality that Ambazonia is gone. It has started coming to the reality that there is no turning back. Even Cameroonians themselves in Ambazonia who had some assets are beginning to reduce their risk. Some are selling their lands, some are selling their houses, and some are selling some of their assets. I also encourage Ambazonians living in Cameroon to look beyond the short term and medium term to see how you can reduce your risk exposure in Cameroon, because the inevitable, which you had yearned for, is on the way. I know that Enabler also talked about a referendum. Will not, we had a referendum and decided on our independence in April 1961. We are not going to have any other referendum again. The Ambazonian Governing Council, the Ambazonian Defense Forces, and all other sister forces will have the capacity to gain outright victory. Why that is an option on the table, we still invite Cameroon to come to the negotiation table to negotiate its peaceful exit, because Cameroonians are not the problem. It is the cabal that surrounds the Octagorian dementia beer that is the problem. They have caused mayhem not only in Ambazonia, but in Cameroon itself. And that is why I keep saying the faith and the future of Cameroonians is in the hands of Cameroonians. There is a difference between Cameroon and Ambazonia. When Agobala is talking about Cameroonians, what applies to Cameroon does not concern us. Whatever they do in their own country is none of our business. But one thing is for sure, and I congratulate him, that after 8 years of war and counting, he has finally realized that any movement in this liberation war, any individual in this revolution war that would bid for federation or coexistence in any form with Cameroon will be left on their own. We stand unwavering for our total freedom, for our total liberation, so that we can determine our own economic potential, we can determine our own political, our own social, cultural pathway independent of Cameroon, while still maintaining Cameroonians as our neighbors. But for the current regime, if you thought you had the bills, we humbled them in the forests of Ambazonia. If you thought you had the elites and the chiefs, we have humbled them. They are living in your own country and purporting to govern us in Ambazonia. For you, the enablers and traitors, for you, the sellouts, read history books of those who have sold out their people. See how their faith has become. And I promise you, we will find you. We will bring you to justice at the appropriate time.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. You've indeed neutralized the gibberish that was spewed out or that was sprouted by, as you called him, the enabler. So I thank you for reaffirming that and reassuring our people the position of Ambazonians when it comes to their unconditional and total independence. This is what our people need. We don't need some referendums or, well, we don't need that, and we don't need any form of whatever he was saying there. But we are happy that our people understand this, and that even them who were saying these things in the past, 8 years ago, are now coming to the realization that no, they don't even know the state they are dealing with. They don't even know the person they are dealing with. And we are glad that we've had leaders that have mastered the system, who knew the people they were dealing with and understood them in and out. And so had trained us, built us, and prepared our people to know the kind of monster that they will be facing. And Ambazonians are well prepared for that. Mr. President, Vice President, I know you were in a diplomatic meeting. If it is not yet ready to spill the beans, you don't have to. But if there is anything interesting or any encouraging moves that will encourage our people and give more hope to our people in this meeting that is allowed to be declassified at this point, please go ahead. Or if not from this meeting, what are other diplomatic steps that have been taken that it's actually giving us more hope at the level of the international community?
Thank you so much, Madam PS. The most important thing is that over the last 8 years, the Ambazonian Governing Council has shown itself built institutions manned by people of integrity like yourselves and others, and supported by the Ambazonian people to be that voice, to be that reputable voice and actor through the leadership of Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba for the Ambazonian people. The international community doesn't like instability. The international community firmly believes in strong institutions. And the AGovC has provided that leadership, has provided those structures and processes that have withstood the times. And it has shown the international community that Ambazonia is a credible partner for the realization of economic, political, and social interests around the globe. There are lots of different puzzles within the international system that's ongoing. But as you rightly said, because of NDAs and because of our new policy in the Ambazonian Governing Council to only bring you the results, I will only tell the Ambazonian people that we have crossed the Mongo and Matazan. We are nearly there. I am talking as the SG set from a vantage point. We have secured what is needed. We await the details and the implementation plan, which includes the schedule and what is needed in order to achieve such plan. I can also assure the Ambazonian people, if you read very well and you listen very well to the message of the French ambassador, who is now the president of Cameroon, in Bamenda a few months back, you will be called to negotiate exit of Cameroon from Ambazonia. We will make sure that all stakeholders are represented. We are working closely with other movements in the Ambazonian Liberation War. We will also make sure that Cameroon doesn't take us for a ride, as they have tried in the past. Why that option is still on the table, the Ambazonian Governing Council and the Ambazonian Defense Forces still maintain our stance, which is based on the argument of force. Because totalitarian regimes are not brought down by diplomacy. They are not brought down by the law. They are not brought down by niceties. They are challenged iron for iron, method for method, until they crumble. And Cameroon is crumbling. We are aware. We know what to do. The Ambazonian people will be called upon at the appropriate time to react, to follow particular steps so that we make the final push. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, for throwing more light and bringing a lot of spice to this conversation and reassuring your people. Thank you very much for the hard work that you're doing, you and the diplomatic team, and of course, the entire leadership and the people of Ambazonia for our people on the ground. It gives them reassurance when they see you come out and reassure them in this way. So thank you very much, sir. I wouldn't want to hold you in the studio any longer because I know you're still engaged with other meetings and it's getting late for you out there. So thank you for joining us, and we will continue the conversation in the next 10 minutes before we leave. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome to ACN.